and welcome to MIC TV. Today we're going to be discussing goal setting, creating a clear vision of your dream career. I'm your host, Greg Ferriola, along with my partner, TJ Peason. TJ, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. That's Peterson. Greg said Pigeon, but it's actually TJ Peterson.
I slur my words sometimes when I'm excited. Back off. If this is your first time joining us, we'd like to welcome you to the MIC community. And if you're is your first time watching, or if you're just watching in general, or if you're just watching a replay, please make sure to drop a hello into the comments. Let us know a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and we will definitely be able to respond to you. We look at all the comments. Today, again, we are going to be discussing goal setting, creating your clear vision for your dream career. Now, when it comes to building a professional music career, the concept of goal setting might not seem all that important. After all, as long as you know that your goal is to become a professional musician, what other goals do you really possibly need? But having clear, specific goals is actually much more important to your success than you might think. So the question is, why is goal setting so important for aspiring artists and bands? Well, when you decide that you want your music to be your profession, meaning your goal is to sign a record deal or become a DIY artist or band, you're deciding to start your own business. And creating a business involves a certain amount of planning and work. Now, for almost every artist, this means creating music, playing live shows, posting on social media, networking with other artists and industry professionals, and then repeating that process until something happens. The problem is, most of the time, nothing actually happens. Or at least nothing significant to the point where you are going to notice. And that's the problem for most musicians. Why? Because there are three key elements that impact your music career. First are your music responsibilities, which encompasses everything you do from writing to recording to performing. And then are all the business responsibilities, which includes your online, building your online channels and creating your brand. And then third is the mental and physical well-being, which covers taking care of your physical and mental health. And if you don't take care of number three, it's going to impact number two and number one, because those elements are really, really important, your mental health and your physical health. And it's impossible to be successful if you're feeling mentally terrible or physically terrible. Now, one of the most common, problems and things that people experience as musicians are periods where they're feeling their career isn't moving forward. It's probably one of the most common feelings I think, artists and bands actually have. And the number one reason behind why they're doing that or feeling that way is due to not having specific goals and goal setting, meaning musicians don't have a clear set of goals that they're working on. And when you don't have clear goals, you just kind of work on whatever you feel you should, or anything that might pop up, which typically leaves people feeling scattered or not moving, or feeling like they're moving in a particular direction. And this can lead slowly to feeling like you're lost or that you've hit a career plateau. Now, when we first began Musician Indie Coalition, we spent a lot of time working one-on-one with artists, and actually we still do. Now, we always had something for them to work on when we were in our sessions, but we also let them dictate what they wanted to discuss during the sessions, because at the end of the day, we're trying to develop entrepreneurs and people that take the initiative to organize and manage their career. But eventually, during these sessions, at some point, we would hit a wall and we would become very unfocused, and the sessions would kind of jump all over the place, or they become sessions where we're talking about their mental status, where they were at in their career, why they weren't feeling good, all that kind of stuff. And at first, we would just kind of chalk it up to where the artist was at. Maybe things were going slow in their career. Maybe they were hitting a rough patch, or maybe they just weren't busy, so they didn't really have a lot to kind of go over and talk about. But seeing this time after time with all the people that we were working with, we started then questioning, maybe this is something we're actually doing. Maybe this is actually our fault. As coaches, part of our job is to keep artists focused and motivated. And if that isn't happening, then maybe we need to be doing something on our end to solve that problem. So, TJ and I took some time and we dug into, all the sessions that we created. And I found one that we barely ever covered with musicians. And it was the lesson on goal setting. And when I went over what we had created, it wound up being the answer to everything, because having goals gives you something clear that you want to work on immediately and in the long term. Now, when you think of a goal, You probably don't think it's like, again, it being that important. In fact, like, what do you even think of when you think of a goal? I want to be a full-time artist. I want to be famous. I want to tour the world. But when you actually know what a goal is, those aren't goals. Those are desires. Those are things that you want to have. Those aren't actual fixed goals. For something to be an actual goal, it needs to really be specific and have a deadline. Now, we are going to break down all the steps to goal setting and executing those goals in a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to give you. But to give you a quick example of what I'm talking about, if you said that you want to be rich, that's a desire. Desires are vague and can happen at any point in time. But if you said, I want to earn $100,000 per year by this specific date and time, that's a goal. Why? Because by that specific date and time, either you are earning that amount of money or you're not, and you're going to know whether or not you were successful at achieving that goal. So there's a big difference between your desires and having clear, actionable goals. Now, to explain this further, again, we're going to go over the steps for goal setting and execution from our DIY Musician Success Blueprint that we talked about earlier. It's only a few slides, and it won't take long, but it's important, all the stuff that we're going to go over. So in addition to having a specific deadline, to be an actual goal, there are a few other conditions that need to be met. So let's break this process down for you in detail. All right. So step one, when you're creating your goal, you want to create and set your goal. Now, when you're setting your goal, it must contain the following three elements for it to actually be a goal. First, your goal must be achievable and believable. When setting any goal, it needs to first be something that's actually possible for you to do and achieve. And you have to believe that it is possible for you to accomplish. If your goal was to play with Prince, then that's not achievable because sadly he's no longer with us. Similarly, if your goal is to earn $100,000 from selling your music and you want to do that within the next 2 weeks, chances are you're not going to believe that's possible. Now, if you don't believe your goal is possible or it's something that isn't realistic, then the chances are that you won't achieve it and you're setting yourself up for failure. And that's something that you want to avoid. So the next thing is you want your goal to be relevant and challenging. Now, if your goal was to earn $1 selling lemonade, that goal isn't going to benefit you because it's too easy, and selling lemonade isn't necessarily relevant to your music career unless your album is called Lemonade and that's your promotional hook. Now, what you want to be doing when you're setting goals is you want to challenge yourself and select goals that really matter and that are going to have an impact on growing your career. Now, when you challenge yourself, the trick is to find the middle ground between what you think is impossible versus too easy. So if you truly believe your goal is challenging, then once you accomplish it, you're going to build your confidence. And you're going to grow as a musician and as a business owner. And if you believe in yourself, that really kind of takes a lot of the problems that you experience when you're building your career out of the way, because confidence is a major part of being not only successful, but just, living through your life, and being happy is making sure that you're confident in all the things that you're doing. Now, once you have accomplished your goal, again, and you feeling that your confidence is up, then you want to be able to start pushing yourself. So if your goal was to get, let's say, 100 Instagram followers over a 2-week period and you got 200, then that makes you feel even better because not only did you make your goal, but that you surpassed it. And then maybe your next goal will be to get 300 followers over 2 weeks and really begin pushing yourself. Because once you have accomplished certain things, you feel, and you can repeat that over and over and over again, you then have learned something about yourself, learned something about your audience, and learned something that's going to better your career. And now you want to push yourself to become better. And the final thing that a goal must have is your goal must be measurable and have a deadline, meaning how much and by when. Now, if you set vague goals for yourself, you're going to wind up getting vague results. So you need to be specific in what it is you're trying to accomplish. Again, if you said, I want to play my first live show, this statement is a good idea, but not necessarily a goal. Now, if you said, I want to play my first live show of all original music to an audience of 20 people by 9 p.m., June 1st, 2022, then that's a goal. Why? Because by that time and date, you're going to know whether or not you played a show of all your original music and what the head count was. So now that you know how to create a goal, let's talk about the steps for actually accomplishing it. Now, the first thing you do when you create a goal is you want to write it down. By writing down your goals, you accomplish two tasks. First and foremost, you free up your memory space. Your brain can only hold so much information, and as a musician, you're juggling a lot of things. So you want to write down as much stuff as you can to free up your brain to focus on more important things or immediate things that you're currently working on. The second thing that writing your goals down accomplishes is it ensures you won't forget them, which will also help you stay focused when achieving them. So then after you write them down and you know what they are, your next step here is to create a plan for achieving them. Um, Now, you start this process by first and foremost brainstorming. And by brainstorming, I mean you want to come up with all the different ways that you can achieve that goal. Um, you don't necessarily know which way is going to work, so you're coming up with different theories and testing. So you can test them all out. But the first step is just trying to figure out how am I going to accomplish that task. And then once you figure out the different methods that you want to use for trying to achieve that goal, then for each one, you're going to sit down and make a to-do list of the things required to implement each idea. And if you get stuck, which is, tends to happen when you're doing these kind of exercises, you can ask yourself these three questions. Which I don't have on this timeline, but that's okay. So I'm just going to verbalize them. So what activities are needed? What resources are needed? And what people are needed? I'm going to repeat that one more time because this is really important. What activities are needed? What resources are needed? And what people are needed? So, if you are any task or thing that you're going to work on is going to have a certain amount of activities or tasks that need to be done to complete it. You are going to need a certain amount of resources, so if you're posting on social media, you're going to need like photos and copy to put out on the post. And then someone needs to actually do that work. And that might be you, or it might be a bandmate, or you might be outsourcing to somebody, but you need to know what people are going to be needed to create that task. Then when that's done, you need to organize what needs to get done in a step-by-step process chronologically so that you have an itemized and prioritized timeline of all the things involved in completing your goal. And then finally, what you're going to do is you're going to break up that to-do list and assign it to each task to a key partner that is in your band. And if you're working by yourself, then guess what? You're doing everything on your own. But it's this process that really helps you not only define your goals, but break it down so you know how to achieve them. Now, the next step in goal setting and execution is an important one, and it's to write down your list of obstacles. Now, so now that you're fully aware of all the steps involved in accomplishing your goal, you want to review each item that you need to do. Then visualize and write down the obstacles that stand in the way of your goal. Now, obstacles come in three different forms. They come in the form of self-doubt, they come in the form of fears, and obstructions. Now, self-doubt and fears are both internal mental obstacles, while obstructions are external obstacles. Now, to explain this further, self-doubt is the collection of negative thoughts that you have upon first reading your goal. So they're all the reasons you use to convince yourself not to work towards achieving it. For example, I'm going to need to hire a full band to play that venue, and I can't afford that. Now, when you're as a musician throughout your career, to grow and to change means you got to continually push yourself out of your comfort zone. And when you do that, your mind and your body is going to react to that. And you have to have a plan in place for addressing those types of problems. And the next one is fears. Now, fears are an emotional response to your goal, and they aren't real. For example, what if I play my original music and no one likes my songs? Now, that might actually wind up happening, but chances are if you like your songs, there's going to be someone out there in the world that also likes your song. So it's not something that you should allow stand in your way, but you need to address that, because if that holds you back from actually working towards accomplishing your goal, that's not going to help you move forward in your career. And finally, obstructions are actual conditions that get in the way of you achieving your goal. For example, not owning the equipment you need to shoot your music video. Now, each one of these obstacles has the power to hold you back from accomplishing your goals. So again, it's important that you know what they are and write them down. And then once you have that list completed, you need to go through each obstacle and figure out how you're going to overcome it. Now, again, this is really, really important because 90% of the time when you're not progressing in your career, it's not from some outside source. It's simply from you. And it's simply because of these three obstacles that stand in your way. Now, once you get past writing down your list of obstacles and how you're going to overcome them, you want to begin working on completing your to-do list. This is the step where you actually begin to work on accomplishing all the items on your list. This will entail you taking your prioritized to-do list and coordinating it with your weekly schedule to ensure that you have time to work on everything. However, if you aren't feeling motivated to complete your to-do list for whatever reason, which happens from time to time, you might find yourself stuck on a step for a while, even if you have a deadline. This was what makes the next step so important, which is be accountable by announcing your goal. Now, one of the problems we found out early on is that accountability is a difficult thing to have when you work for yourself, because if you fail, technically speaking, the only person you're really laying down is yourself. Now, for most people, letting themselves down isn't really a motivating factor. So you need to come up with another way to hold yourself accountable. Now, the way that we found to be most effective is by announcing your goals. Now, when you announce your goals, it's important that you do it to a person or a group of people that will actually hold you accountable for what it is that you are trying to do, such as a business coach like myself or TJ, or a fellow band member. But in all honesty, the way that we've always found to be most effective is to announce that goal to your fans. If you actually post on social media what it is you're trying to accomplish and by when, you're going to get it done, because you're going to feel really stupid if you don't accomplish that in that length of time. Or you're going to be really afraid to look bad in front of your audience, so you're going to get it done. But you really need to dig deeper and think of what motivates you, and then use that to make sure, if you feel that you have a problem with accountability, which I think to some extent we all do. At the end of the day, again, whoever you select to hold yourself accountable, you just need to make sure that you're choosing someone that is going to really follow through and be there and help you. And also, you also need to be honest with yourself with, again, what consequences will actually impact you to get things done. And the last step to creating and achieving your goals is to review your goal twice a day. Now, every night before you go to bed and when you wake up, you need to read your goal. This will help you keep your goal fresh in your mind so you stay focused, and it will also help you identify the individual action items you want to work on throughout the course of the week. This is really important. I find this to be particularly helpful at the end of the day, thinking about, okay, I'm still working on this. This is what I accomplished today. Tomorrow, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And then when I wake up in the morning, I remind myself, okay, this is what I'm trying to get done today, and I need to do this, this, and this, and I make sure I get those done. That way I can feel like, again, I'm moving forward with the work that I'm trying to get done. Now, the last thing we want to discuss are the three types of career goals that you can have as a musician. Now, when building your music career, the first thing that you're going to need to have are some long-term goals, which is the vision of your ideal music career. Now, if you've ever heard the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, when creating long-term goals is kind of like that question. If you were to envision your dream full-time music career, what does that look like? Are you touring locally, nationally, internationally? How many fans do you have? 1,000, 10,000, a million? Do you spend most of your time creating music and releasing it, or is most of your time spent interacting with fans? How much money are you earning per month? The point that I'm trying to make here is if you're going to create your career, you first need to have a clear and specific vision of what it actually looks like. One of the first activities we have our musicians that we work with do is to create a business plan. Now, I'm not going to get into all the specific details of what goes into that, but to put it in the easiest terms possible, your business plan outlines all the things you need and all the things you need to do to have a professional career. Some things are obvious, like you need original music, you're going to need to have a website, you're going to need to have an accountant, but there are other things that you're going to need to discover. So when we describe the process for developing a music career, we will always use the analogy that your music career is like a puzzle. And your primary job is to discover which pieces will help you build a sustainable music career. Well, if you've ever assembled a puzzle before, the first thing that you're going to do is look at the picture on the box. Why? Because if you know what you're trying to create, completing the puzzle is going to be easier. And that's what your long-term goals are all about. Now, your long-term goals may evolve over time as you learn more about who you are and the things you want to do with your career, but you need to pick a starting point and try to be as specific as you can so you know what it is that you're working on. For example, how much money do you want to be earning? Are you touring? If so, where? and how big is your audience, et cetera, et cetera. All right, now once you have created your long-term goal, you then need to break it down into what we call your short-term goal. Now, our short-term goal is small, more practical, goal that you can be work on to achieve in a short period of time, meaning within 1 month to 1 year, depending on whatever the goal is. For example, if your long-term goal is to have 1 million fans and you currently have 0 fans, then your goal might be to go out and get your first 10 or 50 fans. Now, if you wanted to tour the world, but have never played out live, then your goal might be to first go to an open mic or to play your first live show. Now, getting 1 million fans and touring the world are completely achievable goals for any musician, but they are goals that will take years to accomplish. Whereas your short-term goals are tasks that you're able to accomplish within the course, again, of a year or less, which makes you focused and feeling driven instead of, looking at a goal that's really far down the road and not really impacting your immediate future. Now, a good rule of thumb when it comes to creating a good short-term goal will keep you focused and positive, and feeling like you have some momentum in your career, is to create something that's going to motivate you. And you have to really, again, take the time to think about what it is you're trying to do. If you're not pushing yourself, or you're not feeling like, hey, this is impacting my immediate future, it's probably not a good short-term goal. Whereas, doing something that's like a bad short-term goal would be things like, oh my God, I'm going to try to do this gigantic task and feeling overwhelmed, or again, unchallenged. Both of those types of responses, when you look at your short-term goal, if you're feeling overwhelmed or unchallenged, is going to not help your career and eventually going to make you hit a career plateau, which is what you want to avoid. So again, keep your short-term goals focused and try to create positive momentum that will drive your career forward. Now, the third type and final type of goal is what we call breakthrough goals. Now, breakthrough goals are major benchmarks that will have a significant impact on your career. For example, when you earn enough money from your music that you're able to quit your day job, or you attain 10,000 subscribers or followers on your email list, or across all your channels on social media pages, allowing you to get sponsorship opportunities. Now, breakthrough goals, when accomplished, represent a huge leap forward in your career and will make growing other aspects of your career easier. So basically, to summarize, goal setting, overall is a really extremely important process and crucial to the success of your music career. And by having specific goals, you'll have a clear path and be able to maintain your focus, and you'll be able to make continual progress towards having your dream career, because you're actually working towards something specific instead of just making it up as you go along. There's one more key point that I would like to stress about goal setting. Now, as you work towards accomplishing your goals, you want to make sure that you track your progress. This is really, really, really important. It's very easy when you're doing as much stuff that you're going to be doing as a musician, building your career, to forget the work that you've done and forget all the things that you've accomplished. And by tracking your progress on a weekly or even monthly basis, you're going to have something that you can look back on and say, wow, this is what I did. I remember when I had 10 followers. I remember when I was making $10 a month, whatever that is. So you want to really make sure that you do that and give yourself credit for the success that you have. Again, that's another really important process when it comes to motivating yourself and feeling like you're moving forward. And that's, again, what goal setting is all about. Because if you can address the mental sides of your career that hold you back on a continual basis, and you're organized and really focused on what you're working on, you're going to move faster, you're going to progress faster, and you're going to feel good while doing it. All right, guys. So anyway, that's going to be our show for today. In the meantime, everyone have a great day. And remember, we're always here if you need it. Thanks for watching. If you need help planning out your music career, schedule a call to speak with us today. Or you can enroll in our free program called Developing Your Business Plan. The link for both can be found in the description below. And please don't forget to subscribe. Your support really matters and helps us a lot, and we appreciate it. Have a great day.